and to an issue to end the week. I note a significant majority of Australians do not want to cancel Captain Cook, and they support public monuments in his honour. You will recall, I suppose, consistent with the stupidity in Victoria in managing the coronavirus crisis, that the Deputy Chief Medical Officer in Victoria, Annalise Van Diemen, earlier this year attacked the 250th anniversary of Captain Cook, her words, landing at Botany Bay. She talked about it as being, quote, a sudden arrival of an invader from another land, decimating populations, creating terror. This is rubbish and completely untrue. I said at the time that this Dr Van Diemen, Victoria's Deputy Chief Health Officer, was as ignorant of history as she was of Captain Cook. I could also say ignorant of how to deal with coronavirus. The fact is, Captain Cook was not an invader. He was a navigator and an explorer. He played no part in European settlement of Australia, which occurred 18 years after his Botany Bay landing and 9 years after his death. Cook was a civilised man of the Enlightenment, whose instructions in 1770 were to treat Indigenous people he encountered, quote, with every kind of civility and regard. You would expect someone with enough brains to complete a medical degree to have a simple grasp of national history. But the wider issue here is this cancel culture rubbish, where monuments and statues around the world yield to this Marxist vandalism. 3 years ago, the statue of Captain Cook in Sydney's Hyde Park was daubed with the words, no pride in genocide. Genocide is defined as the annihilation of a race. Captain Cook played no part in European settlement of this country. Captain Cook died before the first fleet even arrived on the shores of Botany Bay in 1788. But we've seen these thugs all over the world in blind fury, wanting to erase statues and monuments so that in the end we'd be completely bereft of any visual reminders of the men and women who made our history, good or bad. There is a minority, and it's a minority, who virtually hate their own countries, here, in America, in Britain, in Europe, and hate those who are democratically elected to lead these countries. And I say again, there's a crisis here in political leadership. Who's going to stand up to this nonsense? And once the world is denuded of its monuments and statues, what will be next? Paintings, books, even buildings themselves? In a letter issued by an outfit called US Architecture Think Tank, entitled, quote, Unmaking Architecture, an anti-racist architecture manifesto, the authors claimed, in what one writer proudly called Marxist prose, quote, buildings are never just buildings, but rather these structures are part of an apparatus that rewrites, whitewashes, legitimises, standardises and erases a history of genocide, destruction and racism while maintaining the status quo. In other words, the buildings are the same as statues and monuments, shaped by leaders of death, racism and colonial exploitation. Wake up, Australia. Can we find a leader who'll stand up to this nonsense? Or is it easier to run than stay and fight?